Broadcasting live from the epicenter of the American liberal media complex, New York City. Ready to believe you.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am Ben Kissel, sitting in for John Gibson. All right, I'm honored and pleased to have my friend and my guest. She's a writer for National Review. She's a regular on Red Eye and the Greg Gutfeld Show. Kat Timpf is with us. Thanks for being here, Kat.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know, always.
And this is so nice. I feel like I just already feel drunk. I don't know why. Just every time we talk together, immediately. Yes. You're the best. So you just wrote an article for National Review, and it's another one of these like college campus outrage articles. And this one was involving chokers, which I know is something that you like to wear on a regular basis. And the 90s are back, and chokers are in. But what is it with chokers that's supposedly offensive?
Right. Well, this student, she's Swiss heritage. She's from Switzerland and Germany, and she says it is okay to wear a choker, but you have to know the cultural history of the choker first. Oh. So I guess before I read this article, when I was wearing the choker, I was offensive. But now that I know, I'm rocking a choker right now, and it's okay.
Okay. What is the history of the choker? I thought it came around because with Lisa Loeb and the song "Stay." I thought that was sort of a choker revolution. Where does this thing come from? Right. Well, it's a part of traditional dress in Switzerland. I see. This is what she wrote. I brought my column here. The history behind them is really complex and fascinating. Women, is it? I guess. Women used to wear them because of the severe iodine deficiency in the high altitudes of the Alps would cause them to have goiters. In order to hide these lumps or scars they would receive from having them removed, they adorn their necks with chokers. So it was to cover up medical issues. I guess, but I just think I look dope with a choker on. Right. What is going on with college campuses right now? Do you actually believe that they are, with the safe spaces and all the conversations happening? Do you really think that they are as extremely politically correct and hostile towards freedom of speech as people make it out to be? Yes, or I wouldn't have something to write about every day. I think about what this lady, this student, this girl, whatever she wants to be called, is asking. Yeah. She's saying she thinks she's making some sort of concession by saying you're allowed to wear a choker, but you have to research it first. Could you imagine if we had to research everything we wore or everything we ate? I mean, she's expecting people before they go to the register at Urban Outfitters or whatever to have, Google history of the choker to make sure they're not missing something culturally significant. That's absurd. No one's going to do that. I would never have time to get dressed or actually eat food if I had to do that every time I ate or got dressed or did anything. Do you think that these universities are giving their students a disservice? Because these students, first of all, they're paying unbelievable buckets and buckets of money to attend these universities, and they graduate into the real world with a degree in God knows what, cultural appropriation of the choker and how to explain it, and you're going to interview for a job. Are they doing a disservice when it comes to the real world? Are they preparing these kids at all? No, and it's making it worse. And I just saw my other column about the Illinois State University. Yes. Doing the Bystander training program on microaggressions. Okay, now what is this? First of all, can you explain to me? I have heard this term for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, microaggression. What exactly is a microaggression? It's a tiny little slight, often unintentional comment that disparages people of certain groups. Okay. So if I walk into a room and say, "Hey guys," okay, that's offensive because it's generalizing all people as masculine, which is offensive to women. This program is especially disgusting because we're not just talking about people like Choker Girl who are offended themselves. The bystanders, they're training people to interject into other conversations where they hear a microaggression, whether those people are offended or not. So they're breeding a group of people that are just the most annoying snitches on earth? Yeah. And I would be offended if I was sitting and someone said, "Hey guys," to a group that I was in, and someone came up and said, "Actually, you shouldn't say that. That's offensive to the lady over there." I would be offended. I'd say, "Actually, I am, not to brag, emotionally stable enough to hear 'Hey guys' without needing you to burst through the door like some sort of weird social Kool-Aid justice hero." Yeah. Absolutely. What a waste. Let the individual in the conversation decide what they are or not offended by. Well, that's really an interesting point. Do you think it is strangely it makes people weaker than they actually are, and it projects a certain weakness on people as if they can't stand up for themselves.
Absolutely, especially a lot with the modern feminist movement is women can't handle this is offensive to women, this is slightly sexist. I think that I can handle these things. Obviously, sexism exists, but the real instances of it get diminished when we talk about things like you guys and all of those sorts of microaggressions. And again, if you are someone who's offended by you guys, we've gotten past the point where it's even ridiculous that people are getting offended by you guys. Right. And now, if you're an individual and someone says, hey guys, to you, you could say, hey, I don't like that. They're saying if you even hear it, you need to intervene. Bystander.
Right. Do you think it does a disservice when actual aggression takes place, when actual sexual harassment takes place, when a workplace is truly hostile, and people stop believing when individuals have cried, being offended so much?
Absolutely. I consider myself a feminist in the real definition of the word, but I can't call myself that because then people think I'm one of these wackos who are, op-eds about how you don't like pumpkin spice lattes. If you say that, that's sexist because women generally like them, and it's diminishing that women have any value in terms of what they like and don't like. That's absurd. Right. That is cuckoo bananas. You're the one with the problem if that's your issue, in my opinion. If I ever say I experience sexism, it gets thrown into the same category, which makes it harder for me and for people of any group.
Well, how do you do it now? Because as a free-thinking, libertarian-minded, intelligent woman, when people do accost you on social media, you don't have the same resources to defend yourself as someone who aligns with the left would.
Absolutely not.
Conservative women and libertarian women and free-thinking women are thrown under the bus and there is no one defending you.
Right. When I made that Star Wars joke, and people were coming after me saying that they were going to kill me and threatening my life, and the only thing that people from the left, I heard from people from the left, is I said I wasn't going to apologize because it was a joke.
It's about Star Wars. Take it easy.
And I didn't, I kind of made light of the fact that I was getting these. I didn't like being threatened, but I was kind of like, I took the appropriate steps.
Right.
I informed the authorities that needed to be informed, but I didn't let it. I didn't call for Twitter to be a safe space, whatever that means. Because the great thing about Twitter is that it isn't. The great thing is that there is free speech. Threats obviously cross that boundary, but I didn't say, the only thing that I heard people from the left say is I actually had some people come after me saying, why aren't you using this to talk about harassment of women? Why are you talking about sensitivity to a joke? Why are you talking about, so they were attacking me for being strong.
Right.
When you're getting attacked as a woman by other women for being strong and handling things on your own, there's something wrong with that picture.
What advice do you have? And we're going to go on after the break. We're going to talk about the Day Without Women. I can't wait to hear your perspective on this. Frankly, I think it sounds miserable. But what is your advice to young girls out there who are, unique thinkers? It seems less and less, creativity is being, spurned on in the classroom. It seems like people are teaching to the test. The rules of society are more rigid than ever. What advice do you give those people who do step out of line, who are women, who just want to be unique entities and not align themselves with political movements such as what is now left-wing feminism?
Keep at it. Absolutely keep at it, because it's very important. We can't let this other side of ridiculousness take over. It can be tough sometimes, but learn to laugh at it when it's tough. I love to make jokes when people attack me for these things, especially because everything is so serious now. Everyone just, if you get called sexist, or if you get called racist, if you get called, I get called a neocon, even though I'm a libertarian. People are just so, exactly. People are so afraid. Don't let these buzzwords stop the conversation.
Right.
You have to rise above that.
It does seem to be what's happening, right?
Yes.
You use the wrong, pronoun, and next thing you know, your argument is wiped off the table, regardless if you were going to say something extremely liberal or conservative, whatever. It's just done away with because they didn't like your verbiage.
And it's gotten so absurd. I mean, if somebody says they identify by a certain pronoun, I have no problem with using that, obviously. I respect that. But it's gone beyond that. There's 9 million gender identities. There's this idea on campus that some schools have said you got to continually ask for pronouns because people are gender fluid and their pronouns are changing all the time. And then if you don't know that someone was a different pronoun in the afternoon than they were in the morning, then you're the jerk. No.
absolutely.
No.
And I believe that just stifles conversation, and that's why we're at a there's a chilling effect in society right now. All right, we're going to come back with Kat Timpf. We're going to talk about the Day Without Women. I am Ben Kissel, sitting in for John Gibson. We'll be right back.
You're with John Gibson.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Ben Kissel, sitting in for John Gibson. I'm back here with the writer for the National Review, regular on Red Eye, and the Greg Gutfeld Show, Kat Timpf.
Hello.
Hey, Kat. Good to see you.
You too, always.
Always. Okay, so March 8th. It's the Day Without Women. What is this? What's happening, and why does this exist?
Right. Well, we had a lot of this kind of stuff happening with, with Trump especially. The whole idea is that to prove, anti-sexism, to prove how tough things would be without women, you just don't go to work, you don't go shopping, you don't take care of your kids. I don't know what you do. Sounds like a bed sores possibility here with this Day Without Women, which doesn't sound like it would help me at all.
Well, obviously, this is, yes, like you were saying, in order to combat Donald Trump and his perceived sexism and Republicans in general. My one concern is the left and women, are they wasting their political capital?
Yes.
With marches like this and with events like the Day Without Women?
Yes. I don't know if this one is specifically about Trump, but obviously this has become a thing. Women did this during Trump's inauguration, the same sort of thing. And this is all about the feminism is where you're a victim. I think a great way to instead be a feminist would be to, go to work. You're so concerned about returning to the days where women had to stay in the kitchen by placing yourself in the kitchen instead of going to work, instead of taking care of your kids. You're not going to help anybody by not taking care of your kids. Do something proactive instead of something where you make yourself a victim. How about that? It's crazy.
And of course, there's a lot of money to be made by these sorts of events. The people that put them on, it is financially beneficial. What is their end goal here? All these marches and things like this, what is the end goal? This seems to me like they're following and falling into a typical liberal trap, as opposed to the Tea Party, which got people elected into Congress, into the Senate, and into the House. They're falling into a typical trap of this will be great on Twitter, it's going to be great on Instagram, but what's it actually going to accomplish? What's the goal?
Nothing. It's people will know what the world would be like without women. Everybody who knows that would be bad.
It would be Saudi Arabia. All they're trying to do is make America a Middle Eastern country.
Absolutely. And if, for example, feminists call sexual assault, they want to fight something like sexual assault against women. Have an event that raises money for victims of sexual assaults, or legal funds for people who are going up again in the legal system with sexual assault, where it's very, very tough to do something like that. Do something proactive that's actually going to help women, instead of this absurd idea, well, now you'll know that it's bad without women. Now you'll know, everybody, your kids are certainly not going to like it when they're starving. They probably already know that they want you around. It's all about posturing. It's all about not having to do anything to make yourself feel better, make yourself look like, I'm not working, I'm protesting. Protesting is one thing. If you want to do that, that's fine. It's a good expression.
Right.
But if you really want to make a difference, there are so many active, real ways to do that.
Right. I suppose it is a lot of people are feeling a little bit disempowered, and this could be an avenue where you can come together and meet with a group of individuals that share a collective political mentality. But isn't that the problem right now? I had a great opportunity this past Wednesday. I went to an event called Demystifying Government. I was the only libertarian, moderate, right-leaning individual there. Individuals. They were so bubbleized. They were so inside their own communities. And this is what we saw when Donald Trump ended up winning. It was such a shock solely because nobody saw it coming.
And it's going to keep happening if people on the left don't try to engage with other communities and figure out why.
And this is what you do. You go into conservative places. You go and speak at universities.
Yes.
I mean, certainly not a bastion of conservatism whatsoever. And certainly many of those people don't espouse to your political beliefs. You go into the lion's den, and what advice do you have, or how do you do it? Is it just having a clear, principled political viewpoint that allows you to withstand the storm from either side?
Absolutely. If you know what you believe in, then there shouldn't be a problem. There's a difference between wanting to say, oh, look how liberal I am. Look how feminist I am, and actually wanting to make a difference. If you want to make a difference, you're going to have to engage with people different from you. You're just going to have to, because everyone in your own bubble already agrees with you.
Right.
And if you don't ever go outside of that bubble, you're not going to make a difference. You're not going to change anything. If someone disagrees with you, so what? There's plenty of people who voted for Donald Trump for reasons other than just, oh, I'm a racist. There's the people in the so-called flyover states were sick of being the flyover states, and they had had enough. And the way that they're being treated now, saying, oh, you're all a bunch of racists, you're all a bunch of garbage, guess what? They're gonna do it again. They're not feeling bad they voted for Trump. That's justifying it in their minds.
And of course, I mean, let's not forget 53% of suburban women voted for Donald Trump. Why do you think our first female candidate on a national ticket in Hillary Clinton, what happened?
She was a terrible candidate. I'm trying to think right now of a single thing that she stood for at the beginning of a political career that she stands for now.
TPP reversed.
TPP reversed.
1994 crime bill.
Yeah, criminal justice reform reversed.
Iraq war
reversed. I mean, yeah, she was probably, it's funny because Trump's rhetoric is definitely tougher, but she was the most hawkish candidate in the race. Right. If you look at her record. People didn't want more of the same. Just go, oh, Bush, and then the Clintons and the Bush. They'd had enough, and it didn't matter whether she was a woman or not.
Are there any strong female candidate or politicians out there right now that you are looking forward to hearing about more in the future? I mean, obviously the left is still, rolling out Elizabeth Warren, who loses, by the way, against Donald Trump in 2020, and Donald Trump loses to a generic Democrat, but he beats Elizabeth Warren. Is there any other viable candidate right now from the left?
It's tough. It's tough for me to...
Tulsi Gabbard's out there and some people, but those people aren't necessarily, Tulsi certainly isn't a leftist.
They seem to have a tough time moving on from what made them lose. I mean, we still got Nancy Pelosi in there.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi's day is over. It's very clear to anybody who's anyone.
How do they get past the gender identity politics?
That's what really holds them back. I mean, even just look at what happened. Bernie Sanders isn't a part of their conversation as much as they should be, despite the popularity with the youth. They make fun of, conservatives being stuck in the olden days. There's a such thing as the Democrat olden days, too.
Right.
So listen to the youth. Make some changes, shake it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with a little shaking it up.
I mean, I think if you look at female politicians at this point, Nikki Haley, I think the right is really coming up with some wonderful creative candidates, and it's because they have to compromise. I mean, there's no denying that Nikki Haley she's certainly not hard Tea Party alt-right conservative. As a matter of fact, she took down the Confederate flag in South Carolina. I mean, so you can be a woman and get elected in this country. You just have to have the right politics.
Yeah, imagine that.
All right, National Review, regular and Red Eye, The Greg Gutfeld Show, Kat Timpf. Find her on Twitter at Kat Timpf. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. I'm Ben Kissel, sitting in for John Gibson.